Well, how the worm turns. Morning Joe's Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski took a trip to Florida on Friday. You guessed it, they went to kiss the ring at Mar-A-Lago, and they told their audiences this morning the duo had a personal sit-down with Donald Trump. Let's watch.
Joe and I went to Mar-A-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
It's been 7 years since the two MSNBC anchors spoke to the president-elect, although Joe Scarborough did reach out after the first assassination attempt this summer against Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. So, is this hypocrisy? Let's listen.
For those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realized it's time to do something different, and that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Conservatives are having a field day with this. Buck Sexton tweets, Trump's victory is so complete, Morning Joe is fully surrendered. And then, some people on the left are making fun of them too. My friend Ryan Grimm, who used to co-host the show, let me find his tweet. He tweeted, I'm not going to be able to find it so quickly. Calling them basically Russian, playing into the Russians. Like, the Never Trump operatives have actually been Republicans all along. Making fun of that kind of conspiratorial thinking. I tweeted, I thought it was pretty funny. I tweeted the Avengers GIF where Captain America leans into the Hydra people and says, "Hail Hydra," pretending to be one of them. But is this actually hypocritical? I don't know. I've been unrelentingly critical of the Biden administration. If Biden invited me to meet with him, I would absolutely meet with him.
I mean, I think it is hypocritical. I know I'm saying
Good.
It's like, I can't believe I have to defend this or try to defend
Oh, you don't have to, right?
No,
whatever you want.
These are people, two co-hosts who initially were exceptionally supportive at one point, allowing a platform for Donald Trump. And, whether he should have a platform or not on MSNBC is irrelevant for the purposes of this discussion. They were chit-chatting with him on the phone and having a great old laugh up until the time that they decided he was basically Hitler and, everybody had to be ginned up to oppose this grave threat. Excuse me, I'm getting so worked up, I'm nearly throwing my mug across the room. But this idea that they are now, having spent this period of time warning that he was the greatest danger to democracy and everything that ever happened, and now it's like, well, in the interests of commonality, we have to go. Come on, this is just, it's so fraudulent at a fundamental level. That's the problem.
Yes, I think that is the critical point, in that their criticism of him was just that, again, treating him, you can't normalize Trump because it's fascism, and okay, if you really believe that, then your actions are hypocritical, because meeting with him is normalizing him. Having a discussion about issues upon which you disagree with a fascist, if you actually believe that, then you can't take this course of action, right? Because there's no compromise with fascism. It goes to show you that they never really did believe that. They disagree with him, and that's fine. I don't think I've ever called Joe Biden a Marxist communist or something. In fact, I think I've disagreed with people on the right when they use sensational or inflammatory language to describe his policies. They're just policies upon which I very much disagree with, and that's fine.
No, but I know. But on the clip that we played, one of them, you had Mika saying about, people will say, why would they do this? And she would reply, why wouldn't we? like if you went into the Morning Joe archives, you could find daily examples of her arguing why they shouldn't do it because it was so dangerous and such a grave threat. The other point, Robby, just in broader terms, you and I were talking, I think it was last week, in relation to CNN about the challenges facing the cable news industry, and there are for sure challenges unrelated to content to do with cord cutting and streaming, and we talked about that. But there is also a problem with cable news networks where people, I think, are becoming wiser to those hosts who just use them as marks to be bilked, basically. And like that is a massive, massive problem. And it happens in both right-wing and left-wing media. Now, there are people who are very critical of Trump who I think genuinely believe it. People can argue one way or another with Rachel Maddow, for example, whether they like her, whether they tune into her, whether they think every accusation she makes is well-founded or not. My sense is she genuinely believes the stuff that she says. But this stuff is just like performative outrage up until the point where it's no longer profitable or it freezes you out of proximity to the powerful, and then you just change your position and you're all about comedy and friendliness. It's just ludicrous.
Yeah, and I don't like the idea of people changing their position in order to be softer to the administration, so you're spared the axe, or more likely, what I think some people at MSNBC and CNN have realized is that there just isn't enough of an audience anymore for unrelentingly, it is the end of the world if Trump or any R person wins. That is not resonating with enough people anymore, or the people for which that message resonated are too exhausted to keep watching and keep subscribing.
Well, I think that's true, but I guess the question I would have then, you're quite right, I've never heard you call Joe Biden a Marxist or communist or whatever, but people do on Fox News primarily and on networks to the right of that, and conservatives, MAGA viewers don't seem to have tired of that at all. I mean, their ratings have held up okay. So why is the supplying of red meat often, in my opinion, rather overly inflammatory or hyperbolic sense, why does that work on the right and not the left, I guess is the question.
Well, because then one must reach the conclusion that there are more conservatives out. I mean, this is a center-right country. Yeah. Trump just won. He won the popular vote even. People have more conservative views than I think the mainstream media understood for a while, or at least culturally conservative views, and they're very fired up about it. They're also, disproportionately older, and older people are more reliable watchers of television, whereas, although, again, this gets complicated in many different ways because actually young people, conservatives are doing pretty well with young people, but younger-ish people don't get all their news from just turning on the television and watching it. They're getting news from, from other media sources. There's more, the fragment, there's more competition, really. And now there's a lot of competition on the right, too, because there's so many conservative news websites. But for television, which is a lot of older people going to get their news from, there really just is Fox. So they have more of a market capture, as I think the technical explanation. Coming up next, Pete Hegseth is coming under fire. We've got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay tuned.